Good evening, friends. Welcome to Fat Man Beyond. I'm Kevin Smith.
I'm Marc Bernardin.
Hey. Obviously, the news just literally broke. I was getting in the shower to come here, and I got a text from Marc, and he said, we have a story to lead with, and there it was. Heartbreaking news. The great Chadwick Boseman, T'Challa himself, Jackie Robinson,
Thurgood Marshall,
and James Brown played a host of roles, but of course, for the purposes and intents of our show, the king of Wakanda himself. Good night, sweet prince. Farewell to the king. We've lost a great actor. How many times did he play Black Panther? So Civil War,
Black
Panther, and
Avengers,
both Avengers movies.
So 4 times.
I mean, a short life at age 43, cut tragically short by colon cancer. Did anybody know this?
I mean, I have to imagine that his inner circle knew.
Right.
You know,
but this wasn't public. I'm not crazy.
It was an incredibly well-kept secret. You know, and I'm sure at his behest. He seemed to be a very private person. For as much as he, would go out on the circuit and advertise his movies and talk with fans, the interior life of Chadwick Boseman was a mystery to most, in a way that I think he might have patterned after classic movie stars of old.
Yes.
The more the mystery, the better it is for me to step into these roles, and so that he can be these totemic history, figures in both Black history.
The less you know about him, the easier it is to buy him as whoever he's playing.
But apparently he was diagnosed the year Black Panther came out, 2016. And went through rounds of surgeries and treatments and all kinds of stuff trying to bat it aside and win the fight, and through it all kept working.
Yes.
Through it all kept making Marvel movies, making The Five Bloods, the last picture that was released that he shot, the Spike Lee sort of Vietnam War movie.
Right.
In which he looked thin, in which he looked a little frail.
I remember, not too many months ago, he looked thin in some photos, and people were like, is he going to be in Black Panther still? Is he going to be ready? Who could have guessed from the outside if you didn't know?
No.
Never in a million years would I have assumed, so young and battling colon cancer. But
right. And who looked so vibrant. And who,
incredibly vibrant.
Every time you saw him on screen, there was a physicality to him. I mean, you can't not be physical when you're playing James Brown. You can't not be physical playing Jackie Robinson. You can't not be physical playing T'Challa, the king of Wakanda. And I mean, he's clearly was an actor through and through, because we never saw it in any of those performances that he was fighting anything beyond the enemies on the screen.
Shooting star or comet, man, burned insanely bright. Impacted this business in a big bad way over the course of not even fully a decade.
Yeah, I mean, near as I can put together, his first movie was really 2012, 2013. I mean, 42 was the one that broke him huge.
Right.
And that was 2013. So that's not 9 years ago.
I met him, like I said on Twitter, only one time, and it was for the Stan Lee, when Stan got his hand and feet prints in the cement at the Chinese Theater forecourt, courtesy of the Legion M folks. And I was an MC, and then there were speakers, and Todd McFarlane was one of them, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Clark was one of them, and James Gunn, Kevin Feige, and Chadwick Boseman. And he was nice, and a nice guy, very quiet, and a little nervous about having to go up and speak, but gave a wonderful speech. Carried himself as regally as the character he's most well known for playing. Seemed like a really, really good dude, but you definitely hit on something with the the old actor persona. He wasn't I remember a piece that he did. It's not like he didn't do things. He was on SNL, and he was fucking amazing on SNL. And he was T'Challa on SNL, where he's doing figuring out the potato salad recipe.
He was doing
Karen.
T'Challa on Black
Jeopardy. I suspect
Jeopardy.
she does not season
Yes.
Her potato salad.
The rise of the Karen in popular culture
Yes.
is in great part due to Chadwick Boseman on Celebrity Black Jeopardy.
He was wonderful
Hell
there.
no, Karen.
There was a piece he did on Jimmy Fallon, where they had people walking up to a poster of Black Panther and just like, hey, we're shooting you and we're going to show this to Chadwick Boseman, but he was right behind the thing, and so people would talk, and then he'd come out and they'd be like, ah. But yeah, he disappeared into his roles and wasn't like a big figure in public life from what I saw.
Yeah, I mean, I think that playing a character like T'Challa is a massive responsibility, given what that character was going to mean to a generation of both moviegoers and lots of generations of African Americans and people of color all over the world. And the mantle of that is heavy to bear, and he seemed to bear it as lightly as a person could bear. There was an entire the Black Panther vortex, spread long and wide from the January before that movie came out all the way through Oscar season. When it won a bunch of Oscars, and the cast won a bunch of awards and at the SAGs and so forth and so on, and so he became the standard bearer for that movie. And watching him do that press and watching him walk out there and lift up everybody around him and make everybody who came into his orbit feel better about themselves. Yeah. And he did it with such grace, the kind of grace of a person who has been in the limelight for a bit, but also who had a life before this, and who, made some struggles and fought some fights and won most of them. There was a great moment when I think he was speaking, I want to say it was like Denzel Washington's AFI Lifetime Achievement Award, something or other, or one of these sort of award season SAG things. And he mentioned to Denzel that when he was a kid and he wanted to go to college, he was able to go through the good graces of, sort of the beneficiaries of people who donated money to the school. And one of them was Chadwick. And Chadwick doesn't go to college unless Denzel Washington bankrolls him.
How beautiful is that?
And for him to be able to be on that stage at that moment and then tell him that, a thing that I don't think Denzel knew. Like, he donates money. Who knows who gets these friggin' grants?
It's cosmically beautiful, but something you probably wouldn't notice when we were in the moment. But he packed a lot of living into a short span of time, at least as far as the business. I can't speak to his personal life, but as far as the business, like, he'll, he's in movies that people won't forget forever.
Yes.
Huge movies.
He's in the biggest movie of all time.
Of all time. 3 of them, for that matter. I would imagine 3 of the biggest movies of all time. And, aside from the Marvel roles, which, were also stand out, having a moment where you get to acknowledge the people who went before you without whom you might not have been there, like, that's no time, in retrospect, no time was wasted. And maybe that's perhaps because he knew.
Yeah.
How long has it been going on? 4 years, they said?
4 years, diagnosed in 2016. And that gives a person some perspective. Yeah. And allows them to take the most advantage of the time that they have for however much time you get. And it's
Did he have, was he married or
He was married. I'm not sure if he had children or not. The statement that was
Heart
released.
goes out to his family.
Yeah. The statement that was released via his Twitter was that, well, I'll read it because I have it. It is with immeasurable grief that we confirm the passing of Chadwick Boseman. Chadwick was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer in 2016 and battled it these last 4 years as it progressed to stage 4. A true fighter, Chadwick persevered through it all, and brought you, and my glasses are right here and I'm not using them.
No worries.
And brought you many of the films you have come to love so much. From Marshall to Defy Bloods, August Wilson's Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which he shot before he passed. And
which one? What was it?
Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
So that's one more movie coming?
Yeah, it's an adaptation of an August Wilson play. And Silvermore, all were filmed during and between countless surgeries and chemotherapy. It was the honor of his career to bring King T'Challa to life in Black Panther. He died in his home with his wife and family by his side. The family thanks you for your love and prayers and asks that you continue to respect their privacy during this difficult time.
Heart goes out to his wife, man, because she had to share him for the last ever since Black Panther, she had to share him with the world while he's going through this. And I'm sure on some level, there's like, well, at least there's this. At least professionally things are going well, as personally things are not going well. But, you would want to spend every moment with that person, just in case.
Yeah.
So generous of her to share them with all of us. I mean, that's the thing about pop culture is we take people in as our own very quickly. And we watch their work so often and so repeatedly that they become members of the family. You will think about how many times you've gone online and defended a total fucking stranger that you'll never meet just because their work moved you something fierce. He was that and still is for a lot of people. A lot of people like us were surprised. What? Where did this come from? There are a lot of people absolutely devastated. Like for whom, like I loved Black Panther, but there are people for whom Black Panther is like as emotionally powerful for them as seeing Batman in 1989. Tim Burton was for me, and add way more, credibility and socio-political importance to seeing Black Panther for the first time. So think about not only is it a loss to the people who knew him personally, but people who are just fans. Like you said, people who are like, there's a lot of, import placed on that role for not just what it was historically within comics and pop culture, but what it became. It was one of the highest grossing films of all time.
Yeah.
And showed the world that like all your conventional wisdom about what type of movies work at the box office has been upended.
And there's a generation of kids for whom he was their superhero.
Yes.
And for him,
it's like us losing Adam West or something like that.
And for them, this is their first real brush with this kind of feeling of, it's the first poster I had on my wall. It's the first movie that I ever saved up my allowance to buy. It's the first celebrity death for them in both an abstract way and a very close way.
And if you're feeling isolated, or I know in a moment like 2020 has been an absolute fucking nut biter, and sometimes it takes very little to push people over the edge and whatnot. So if you're feeling alone, if you're feeling frustrated, if you're feeling like fuck this world right now, reach out to some friends, hang out with us for a little while. It's crazy what the death of someone you barely knew can bring up in your own life, because of the role that pop culture plays in our daily lives, man. It was shocking when I saw that, the text that you sent, because I was like, what? Did anybody say anything? How is this possible?
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed him as an actor. I never knew him as a person. But, when you are young and when Kurt Cobain passes away.
Yeah.
When somebody that's
John
incredibly
Belushi when we were kids.
Yeah. When Prince passed away and we were
old ass adults.
The before their time person who meant something to you, even in the abstract and sometimes in the very specific, it can throw you for a loop and it can knock you off your balance. So yes, like Kev said, if you're feeling adrift and you need to talk, reach out. Friends, family, there are hotlines. There's any number of ways for you to get resources and to take care of your own mental health. And, take care of your own health, period. It's not as if, he didn't do anything wrong.
No.
It's not like...
And that's the thing. Living. It's like anybody who gets sick. In my case, I had a fucking heart attack because I ate wrong and fucking blah, blah, blah. Something like that.
Colon cancer is not a cancer that's brought about by activity or lifestyle.
It's in your DNA. It's in, it's luck of the draw kind of thing, or bad luck of the draw. Yeah, man. It's 43, way too fucking young, and he obviously gave so much and had so much more to give. Like you take for granted. Where you're like, I'll be watching him play fucking T'Challa for years, at least 2 more movies. That movie was so huge, there's no way they don't. And then life throws your curveball through him, a pretty vicious one. That's just heartbreaking, man. It's such a bummer. What a fucking bad year.
Yeah. I would like a do-over, please.
To say the least. Man, oh man. What...
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that he had, he was still working, kind of up until the end. I'm not entirely sure when Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which is a sort of 1920s kind of blues jazz thing. When it was shot or when it was scheduled to come out, the only information was like 2020 was the release date, but who knows what that means. You know, nothing had been shot on Black Panther 2. I'm pretty sure they're still in the script phase. So who knows what the plan going forward for any of those things are. And I'm sure it's the least on anybody's minds who knew him and knew him well when or what to do about that. You know, I think people are still just grieving and reeling at the news. But yeah, it is a devastating loss, not just for what he did, but what he could have done and what more we could have seen.
If you're just tuning in, Chadwick Boseman, Black Panther himself, King T'Challa, passed away, and we're eulogizing.
Yes.
A wonderful actor who, over a short period of time, impacted pop culture, you know, like a meteor striking the earth that later then helps develop into vibranium. Just to keep it in our world.
Just to keep it on point.
Man, oh man. What are people saying right now, JC, in the chat room? Got anybody in need?
A lot of people are very, very sad and upset, and kind of a lot of people saying like Black Mamba and Black Panther are both gone. A lot of fuck 2020s.
Yeah. And apparently he died on Jackie Robinson's birthday.
And Jack Kirby's birthday. Today is Jack Kirby's birthday.
Man alive.
Is that and Jack Kirby drew Black Panther, created the character with Stan.
I'm pretty sure somebody will put together some crazy conspiracy. Some
Lincoln Kennedy kind of thing.
Yeah.
What a bummer, man. My heart goes out to everyone out there, like us, just fans on the sidelines going, no! But our hearts really go out to his family and friends. Ryan Coogler must be.
Yeah. Like anybody who knew him, anybody got to work with him, anybody who was touched by him, because he was, you know, both a visible person and out there in the world, but also a private person who kept things very close to the vest, but touched a lot of lives, you know, in ways both big and small. So yeah, our heart goes out.
Rest in peace. I'm sure we'll be talking about him throughout the rest of the evening. We were not prepared for this, to say the least, but you know, we're not the ones who had to be prepared. Damn. Have you ever set vigil, death watch for a family member?
I've never had to do that. I mean, I've had, you know, both of my grandparents died of natural causes, and late in life, you know, 96 and 97, they both lived until.
I mean, heavens, wow.
Yeah, no, there's some longevity.
You got some good DNA, kid.
Not so bad. So you know, I've visited people sort of on their, you know, making their final bows, but nobody was ever sick. Nobody was ever suffering.
I've had 3, 4 grandparents, like, slowly die. 2 of them, like, while I was a kid and, like, right around the block from me and stuff. So, like, you want to talk about a feeling of helplessness and hopelessness. You can't do anything. At a certain point, you make a person comfortable, try to make them feel good, but even then, it gets to a place where nothing can be done. So hopefully it was not a painful end for him. But how could it not be? Yeah. You never hear of anybody talking about like colon cancer and it was like, oh, it wasn't bad.
Yeah, it's always awful.
This is going to be a little bit awkward about face, but we have a sponsor tonight. We get to do a show like this because somebody is footing the bills for us, man.
So we figured we would lead off the show with a little Chadwick Boseman memorial and then sort of start the show over again. And you get to watch us reset because otherwise the whiplash would have been a bit severe.
Yeah.
Especially given our sponsor.
And it's a good sponsor, ladies
and gentlemen. It's a very good sponsor. I have used some of their products.
The fuck?
Not in the way that they would have you use them.
I mean, now I'm curious.
Hold on.
Yeah, I know what we're about to talk about, but I'm like, what do you mean? The good folks at Manscaped, ladies and gentlemen, manscaped.com. are sponsoring our show this evening. These are the folks that care about your ball hair.
Yeah, no, I mean...
Nobody in this life has ever cared about that until now.
No, other than, like, complaints.
Yes. These are the people that are going to get those complaints about ball hair out of your life. Boy, this is a 180.
Yeah.
You know.
But here's the thing. Here's what I've discovered.
Yes.
Because I got this package in the mail, right?
Did you?
I did.
Do it?
They sent me some stuff.
Honey, I'm going in the bathroom.
Give me a
Leave me
second.
alone.
I was also incredibly both impressed and dismayed and somewhat inspired by their willingness to use the word balls in describing stuff.
Right here in the copy alone, generally when you do ads on podcasts, and we've been doing that for quite some time, you are told, like in very bold heading, do not curse, use words that are unpleasant or something like that. It's so refreshing to see so much copy listen to this, man. That's why Manscaped has redesigned the electric trimmer. The Manscaped engineering team spent 18 months perfecting the greatest ball hair trimmer ever created and just released the new and improved Lawnmower 3.0. Have you ever wanted to put a lawnmower near your balls? Manscaped's going to make it happen for you, man.
When I tell you this is premium, I mean premium. The battery will last up to 90 minutes, so you can take a longer shave. And fellas, if it's taking you 90 minutes to trim your ball hair,
then you're not trimming ball hair, you're masturbating.
or see a doctor. Because
yes,
there's
that
lots
as
of
well.
things that need to happen.
What comes in the kit?
Well, it was a lawnmower. It was some lotions, some ball lotions.
What was that like?
I haven't used them because I'll tell you what I use the trimmer for.
Okay.
I haven't visited a barber in a while.
Oh, look at you.
And so, like, if you're going to give me a sort of high-end cordless shaver...
You went for other areas. You're like, my balls are fine right now.
Like, we're all good down there, but up here needs some attention.
Good to know. So it's you could use it for more than your ball head.
You can. You can use it for your biggest ball, your head.
the testicle of your brain, ladies and gentlemen.
Manscaped, you don't know how much we needed you to come along right now.
Oh, my God. You saved us from being very, very sad. Their third-generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade. You had a ceramic blade next to your head, for heaven's sake. And that means you'll have one next to your balls if you go for this. They released the new Lawnmower 3.0, man. The blade...
Waterproof?
What is it?
It's waterproof, man.
That's what I was reading right here, man. They could actually... The waterproof technology allows you to groom in the shower.
I mean,
that's the time to do it.
It feels messy, but while you're there...
And also, let's be honest, like, it's the safest place in the world to do it in the shower. Because you know you'll take a shower, get out, be toweling off, and be like, maybe, and you'll put your leg up. And the moment you go to do your first stroke up, the door opens, and somebody's going to be like, oh, hello.
I'm just trimming my balls.
Yeah, I see you've been manscaped. Very good. One of the coolest features is the LED light, which illuminates grooming areas for a closer and more precise trimming. Do you ever want to look real close at the pores that hold your ball hair?
Or trim your nuts in the dark?
Yes, that's probably how you want to do it. Turn the lights off because Manscaped's got a little light right on it. It's going to show you what you need to see. You don't need to see anything else like your confused dog's reaction or your wife's displeasure.
They've also upgraded to a 7,000 RPM motor with quiet stroke technology.
You know what that means? It's a vibrator for men. Press it against something and watch other things happen.
Yeah.
And let's not forget about that charging stand, Mark. Show your mower off loud and proud because this intelligently designed stand is a convenient charging dock powered by USB, man. So when people come into the bathroom, they're like, what's that? You're like, what's that? Why, that's what I shave my ball hair with. It's my Manscaped.
Bathroom, living room table, my friend.
Yes,
it's an objet d'art.
You could keep this in the kitchen. It's so beautiful.
And because it's waterproof, you can wash it.
I love their catchphrase. Trim that junk of yours.
Your balls will thank you.
No doubt, man. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code, you guessed it, FATMAN, all one word, at manscaped.com. That's manscaped, SCAPED.com, man. Your balls, like Mark said, they're going to thank you. Get 20% off and free shipping. Most important thing in this world. With the code FATMAN at manscaped.com. 20% off free shipping at manscaped.com if you use the code word Fat Man. We thank the good folks at Manscaped for sponsoring us tonight.
Thank you indeed.
And, well, one of us thanks you more than the other.
I did. You see this fucking clean-ass head?
And next week, I'll thank you after I'm going to shave my balls.
Do it.
You know what I'm saying? I'm 50. It's time.
Treat yourself.
I mean, we'll see if life gets any better, you know? Maybe that's been the problem all this time.
You haven't been as aerodynamic as possible.
Maybe that's why I'm so heavy. Too much ball hair. Got to lighten the load.
Can you weigh me without the ball hair, please?
This could be the difference. But you know, everyone at the beginning was just like, well, Shakespeare wrote fucking this in the quarantine and shit. This could be what I've been waiting for. You know how everyone's always like, man, your movies used to be good. I'm like, well, fucking maybe this is what I need to do. Zip, get a little lighter, and suddenly I'm making a Matrix.
How do you unlock your creativity?
Manscaped, there's your new tagline. Are you
Unlock
trying to
your
write the great American novel? Manscaped that shit.
Unlock your creativity, unhair your balls.
So many taglines.
We could do this all day.
Man, oh man. Well, prior to this Breaking Bad news, did we have any news?
We had plenty of news.
There's a lot of things going on.
There's some things going on, man.
Let's distract ourselves with news, shall we?
I think
Because I'm feeling my mortality, as I'm sure you are as well.
Indeed.
How old are you?
I am 48. I'll be
And I'm
49.
50. And this young gentleman just passed at 43. That puts things into perspective for gentlemen of our age. Suddenly you start going like, wait a second.
Yeah.
He was in great shape.
Seriously, gentlemen of our age and gentlemen of our general physical condition.
Yeah.
It's like that dude, paragon of animals. Us, a little doughy.
We're not long for this world, is what I'm getting at. So while we're here, let's spend our time wisely talking about other people's projects.
Indeed.
What do we got?
Well,
Marc here went and got some news for you, ladies and gentlemen. Some good news, probably.
some good news.
Or some news that's probably not as sad as the news that we opened with.
Indeed. We have a couple pieces of follow-up, which is a thing that we probably should do and never do.
Every once in a while.
Every once in a while. The first one is it's an audio-visual clue.
Okay. Ooh.
We talked about the Batman trailer. The Batman, the trailer.
Yes.
The Batman.
What do they do?
trailer?
What is it called on Jeopardy when you get a video? Is it video No, when
Yes.
they put up a clue and you got to watch something or see a picture.
I think it's like a video daily double.
Yes. This is our video daily double.
This is our video. Well, it's not quite video yet, but there was a shot in the trailer where somebody sent like a dead person a birthday card.
Yes.
And the birthday card was like, to the Batman, and it opens it up and it asks a question.
There was a cryptic glyph code in there, wasn't there?
There's a cryptic glyph code, as we see on
There
our
it is.
fancy-ass screen.
Thanks to JC and Andrew, we don't even have to give you a word picture. They gave you a real picture.
They really did. Because the internet being what it is, it did not take somebody that long to solve that code.
Someone read it, then went to Reddit, and then solved it.
And then solved it and was like, let me tell you what it means.
That's crazy.
Now
Can you imagine? I talked about this with Ralph on Hollywood Babylon. Could you imagine how frustrated poor Matt Reeves must be? Because you know it's like when he was writing the movie, he's like, oh, he got it. Look, we got to come. It can't just be like, what's black and white, red all over. These riddles got to be fucking crimson, man. They got to be like Zodiac fucking deep and stuff. And built riddles into the script and was like, they'll wait till they see the movie. Then they'll figure out the riddle. Audience ain't even wait until they see the movie. They're like, he lies still.
Yep.
Is that what it was?
That's exactly what it is.
So the riddle was what?
What does a liar do when he's dead?
And so the answer is he
lies
lies
still.
still.
But yeah, I mean, listen, I could walk you through the ways that the one that I sort of cottoned to was by a guy named Mike Selinker, not sure. But, and he's a puzzler. He's a dude who kind of like writes puzzles for games and for both video and sort of text-based games. And he brute forced his way through this puzzle, which is he assigned each one of those glyphs a numerical figure.
Okay.
And then through that began to say, all right, listen, if the last two symbols are the same symbol, and that same symbol appears earlier on in the puzzle, then words that have sort of repeating
Then you can
letters,
start assigning.
Then you can start assigning. It's like, well, it's either going to be, it's like
People are
E
fucking
or
smart,
L or
man.
S, like, it's not crazy to imagine it's a D or F or an N, but now it's not going to be Mafia Stiff. So unless Gorilla Grodd is in the movie, it's not those options. And then putting aside Rupee and Puree, there are only 5 letter strings that end with EE. 3 agree to C. 3 would make the first word RT, but that's weird. So it's not 3, and then 2C. But like,
are you taking us inside the puzzler's mind?
I was going to, and then I realized
that was a full narrative right there. Where I'm like, I think we're in the puzzler's brain.
That was literally 5 out of 12 tweets that this dude sent out explaining his methodology for how he gets to he lies still.
What a piece of work is man. You know what I'm saying? I think someone in the world bothered to take this much time to be like, oh, I solved the riddle that's in the movie that we won't see for a year.
You know, but also there are dudes for whom puzzles are fun.
That's true.
You know, and like, I'm gonna crack this thing just cause. I'm gonna hack into NORAD, see what happens.
It's actually a pretty good riddle too.
It's not bad.
I liked it. He lies still is very like, it's double entendre. He lies still and he lies still.
And he still lies.
Interesting little human interest story, that one.
Isn't it though? Like,
I wonder that for us though, it's charming. Do you think for Matt Reeves and Warner Brothers, they're like, fuck!
Son of a bitch.
Why do we put that in the trailer? Why do we have to show the card? I told you not to show the card! Somewhere, somebody's getting yelled at. Still can't wait to see the movie. I've consumed that trailer a number of times. I had an interesting conversation the other day. We did my birthday drive-in thing on my birthday? So we raised close to $10K, and we donated that money to the LA Food Bank. $1 equals 4 meals, so we bought like 33,000 meals or something like that. And then we were distributing the meals at Hollywood Bowl, the parking lot and stuff. Cars come in, you fill up their trunks with food. And so it was me and Jordan and Julian and Taylor and Luke and Chelsea. So 6 of us from Smodco and stuff. So after a little while, somebody, I guess word got out, they're like, oh my, because we're all in masks. But somebody was like, oh my God, are you him and shit? So somebody from LA Food Bank came over and they were like, oh my, it's really nice that you guys did this and nice that you come out and volunteer time and stuff. And I was like, hey, this is easy, this is fun. We live right around the block, so this is great. And if you guys do it again, we'll do it in a heartbeat and stuff. And so we chit-chatted about this, about the LA Food Bank and stuff. And then like he's like, I'm going to let you go. Before I get out of here, he's like, what'd you think of the Batman trailer? And I was like, I really fucking went for it. I said, I've watched it like 10 more times since last weekend. And I keep looking for details. And I was like, and the thing that I'm most transfixed by now is Colin Farrell Penguin. Where I'm like, you couldn't have just hired a fucking fat guy? Like you had to create makeup that amazing where most people even, did you see the story about who's Jim Gordon, Jeffrey Wright?
Yeah.
He didn't even know that was Colin Farrell in the trailer. Somebody asked him, and he was like, that's Colin Farrell?
Really?
That's crazy, man. But anyway, it's so nice to see we're back in a world where one of my favorite like offshoots of whatever I do for a living, whatever it is I do for a living, is random strangers going, what do you think about? And I get to talk about like fucking a trailer or a movie I love or look forward to with a total fucking stranger. You want to talk about bringing the world together? And that's all across the spectrum, man. It's like naturally it's a lot of like, geeky fucking kids and stuff. But it's like grown-ass adults who work at Whole Foods and stuff like that. People you wouldn't necessarily suspect or whatever. But it's one of those...
benefit of being a professional nerd as opposed to like a dentist.
Yes.
Where if somebody wants to come up and like talk about work with you...
So true.
It's just... I know, right? Let's talk about Robotech.
They're like, I've got this fucking abscess and it's real bad and shit. And I'm sure the dentist is like, fuck, man, if I have to talk about abscesses one more time, brush your fucking teeth, But instead,
floss, bitch, floss.
Yeah, fuck, it ain't my problem. Instead, we get to meet people who are like, and it's not even people calling us up on the carpet like, why'd you fuck up Batman? They're like, what do you think about Batman coming out? I'm like, I think good things. How about you? It's nice. You get all the enjoyment of the thing without like the pressure. Like poor George Lucas, we all know he walked away from Star Wars because he was like, they yelled at me.
Like I made what I wanted to do.
I created their childhood and they yelled at me. So fuck it. It's not worth it and shit.
Yeah. So that I do feel like you said bad for Matt Reeves. maybe he and a crack team of cryptologists were like.
And by the way, don't feel too fucking bad for Matt Reeves. Looks like he made one of the greatest Batman movies we're ever gonna fucking see.
And also made a Batman movie. Which,
Not so we're all jealous. He's like, you feeling bad for me? For me? I'm motherfucking Matt Reeves.
I got monkeys in the back, yo.
I got planets of apes. Boy, that movie looks good, man.
Yeah.
But now a week after Fandome, it's the fucking hangover time where you're like, oh man, that was good. I need hair of the dog that bit me. You got any more of that, Batman? And we're not going to see any more Batman for quite some time. We're going to have
4 years.
A bit. We're going to have to make that meal fucking stretch, man.
Did you see 22 million people tuned in to the DC Fandome?
A definite hit. What was unbelievable was I saw some article somewhere online where somebody was like, this was a boring-ass flop. And I'm like, well, then you don't know about business because all I heard was enthusiasm and excitement. All I heard were other people going like, well, fucking Marvel better do this. Like, a good idea is a good idea. And 22 million tuning in to watch what is essentially one long-ass commercial for your products, that's QVC right there. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're showing people, here's some shit we want you to buy. I'm not showing you out of the kindness of their fucking hearts, going like, hey, aren't we great? They're going like, this is what you're going to spend on. Get ready. We're going to get you excited. And the money they would have spent taking everything to San Diego Comic-Con, they put it in their own backyard and invented a thing that will be one day, God forbid, but it's going to happen, we pass from this best of all possible worlds. They'll still, unless there's been a nuclear holocaust, and even then, they'll still be doing that DC Fandome because it was so fucking unbelievably successful and easy.
Yeah.
Easy. You want to talk about like when you got a Comic-Con, you're like, oh, we got to get people on a train or a plane and get them there and put them up in hotels and shit like that. It's literally, it was like, where are you, home? Great. Go ahead. We get Gal Gadot to run up to a camera, we're wearing the outfit and then cover it, and then everyone jumps in and does their cosplay. Did you see those videos?
Yeah.
It's really fucking charming, man. And I saw some cats online shitting on it. I'm like, somebody was like, could you imagine if Marvel made their actors do this? I was like, it was fun. Don't shit on this.
Let it be fun.
Just
Have
a
some
good
fucking
time,
fun.
man. And people got to be in a video with their favorite actors or actresses from the DC universe.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a great idea. I'm not surprised 22 million people fucking watch. They should do it every 6 months. Fuck yearly.
Yeah. I mean, there is the open question, like, does DC ever go back to San Diego in the same way that it used to? And who knows? Who knows how much of the real world will return in the sort of post-COVID lockdown phase?
I think they're taking a page out of Disney's book with D23, man. Like, Disney, and Marvel doesn't have... Every year they don't feel the need to go to San Diego. Some years they take off now because they're like, we'll do our own thing.
Yeah, like if there's a year when it's like the next Wonder Woman movie and Aquaman 2 and
think
Black
about all the
Adam.
jets they had stacked up too.
Yeah, just like, you know what? We're gonna have our own thing, and you'll pay tickets. You'll buy those tickets, and you'll buy all the merch. That's the other thing that DC doesn't do with San Diego. Same with Marvel.
Yeah, they don't sell merch.
They don't sell merch. They don't sell books. They don't sell anything. It's just all.
22 million people watched. If you turn that into box office dollars, say the average ticket, maybe not the average, but let's say tickets $10 a pop and stuff. What is that, $220 million? It's a big opening weekend for a fucking movie right there.
Totally.
A lot of eyes, all eyes on DC. Man.
A lot of eyes. We had mentioned last week that there was a trailer that resurfaced on the internet, how to make a blockbuster movie trailer.
You brought it up, yeah.
I brought it up, and I described it to you, and I feel like I did a shitty job at describing it because it's hard to
Because the
do.
blank expression I have where I'm
You're
like, just shut up. You're embarrassing all of us.
This isn't good. Abort, abort,
Abort. Fuck, the show's dead.
Pull the string.
So you brought it?
So I brought it. I dug it up on the internet, and I found it, and we're bringing it to you.
And by the way, we had a brief discussion before the show began about, with Chadwick passing away, we would love to showcase, like, let's watch this favorite moment. Let's watch this favorite moment. But after last week, when, we were like, here's a trailer that the entire internet is playing, and then they literally pulled our fucking plug, we're being a bit, circumspect about how much footage we can use as we figure out our ground rules here.
The thing about this trailer, there are no pictures.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Amen. So we get to watch this.
So we get to watch it.
Andrew, what is it called?
It is called How to Make a Blockbuster Movie Trailer.
Andrew, roll that thing. A single note. What is it?
Over establishing shots.
Another single note.
Over more
establishing shots. Low bois.
Have you ever wondered about this particular thing?
Finish statement with mind. I can't see. I'm fucking.
Mind-blowing revelation.
I'm an old man.
Studio vanity
card. JC, why don't you read it? You can see it. So put it in your mic so you can just read it out loud for big VFX shot.
With bois.
That thing I referred to earlier?
You're not reading everything, JC.
And it will destroy us all. Someone has to stop this thing. And that someone is you.
You don't think it would be that easy.
I'm not the person who can stop this thing. You are that person. Now take my hand!
True bouge.
For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. I am the reaction.
Final bois.
Exact release date. Oh, that's genius. Who made that?
I'm not entirely sure.
Clever as fuck.
Super clever. And, you know, like,
Thank you for your content, kind stranger.
And there's absolutely, you know, plenty of superhero movie trailers you've seen and or Transformers trailers you've seen.
Apparently there's a template.
There's 100% a template for this, and that's that. Bois.
Bois.
Light bouge. True bouge.
True bouge. That's what this show is, true bouge.
None more bouge.
What, bois bouge? What do we got?
You were an X-Files fan, yes?
Of course, I named my first two dogs that I ever owned in this world, Scully and Mulder.
So
if we had a third one at the time, we would have named it Cigarette Smoking Man as well.
Weird name for a dog.
But
not Skinner? You wouldn't have gone Skinner?
I think no, probably not. What do we get? Cigarette Smoking. CSM, come here, CSM.
Come on,
CS.
Siggy.
Yeah.
Come here, Siggy.
Siggy, that would have been good.
Fox is developing an animated X-Files spinoff.
Featuring the lone gunman?
It is going to be called, potentially, The X-Files Albuquerque. The new iteration...
A joke show like
Yes.
that Below Decks?
Lower Decks.
Lower Decks show?
The new iteration is an animated series about an office full of misfit agents who investigate the X-Files cases too wacky, ridiculous, or downright mopey or dopey for Mulder and Scully to bother with. They're basically the X-Files' B team.
I mean, I'll believe me, I'll give it a shot, but like, seems a little late, no?
Yeah, and it seems as if some of the enthusiasm for the X-Files was sapped and dimmed a bit by the last two seasons of the kind of rebooted, regenerated, reconstituted X-Files.
Agreed.
But, you know, it was only, as we are discovering with more and more regularity, only a matter of time before IP like this is allowed to lay fallow in the toilet.
Brand name, people know it.
They know the X-Files, put
They
a spin
feel like
on
they
it.
can make a buck off it. Have you watched Lower Decks or whatever it's called?
I saw the first episode.
And?
It's a
You're a Star. I only ask because you're a Star Trek guy, not to put you on the spot.
No, I'm a Star Trek guy. It's a bit of a weird thing in that it's like it's funnier than Star Trek normally is. It's not as funny as Rick and Morty, which it feels like it kind of wants to be. So it lives in this kind of pleasant middle ground.
So is it like the Orville?
It's a bit like the Orville, but like legit Star Trek, in which the Orville is like, you know, Star Voyage.
Right.
So yeah, it was pleasant the half hour that I watched. It scratched some like not unwelcome.
Let me ask you this: as a fan, where you're like, God damn it, I should have done this.
No, I don't think so. I don't
No.
think so. And I think that it's also not going to do what Star Trek Prodigy, which is the Nickelodeon Star Trek animated show.
What is that? Do we know anything about that?
We know very little about it except that it's targeted squarely at children.
Really?
And I think it's designed to try and build the next generation of Star Trek fans by getting them when they're young.
Smart.
And I think that this while
Sell little
fun,
concepts to a kid. There's a federation. It's
So-
made up of planets. They
Yeah.
got rockets. Kids like that shit.
they do. I mean, if they like trade embargoes and
Yeah, don't talk about that.
taxation tariffs and
Yeah,
blockades, then
Kids lose it on that.
not so much the inner workings of
Of government, galactic
trade.
government? No.
We've got a Senate. Great. Senates are fun.
Yeah, boy, that's interesting. Hey, can you have a war now in the
Yeah.
stars?
I mean, I showed up for a Star War.
Or two of them, plural.
Yeah,
There's an S on that thing.
less delegates and representatives.
Put an S
perhaps.
on it. I got an S on it. What else we got?
Doot. That was a show that was going from live action to animation. Now here's a show that's going from animation to live action.
Segue. Let me guess.
Okay.
Powerpuff Girls.
Yeah.
This was a strange announcement this week. When I saw it on the page as a true Powerpuff Girls fan, I was like, I get it. I personally don't want to do that myself, because they were so sweet and pure. You don't need to make that postmodern or whatever. But I'll tell you who fucking went through the roof was my kid.
Yeah.
My kid is a massive Powerpuff Girls fan, still has framed cells in her room. So when she read it, and the premise of this Powerpuff Girls show is they're in their 20s and they lost their childhood fighting crime, so they're kind of bitter about it. But I assume they'll still be fighting crime.
Right. Will they reunite once again now that the world needs them more than ever?
I mean, do they bring back Mojo Jojo?
I
Do
mean,
they bring back Professor, what is it, Professor Utonium?
Professor Utonium. Yes. And the mysterious Chemical X.
Yes, Chemical X. She went nuts for it. She was like, I must be on this show. It is one of those shows where who's writing it?
It is being written. It's from the Greg Berlanti factory of television.
Is it really?
So it's a Greg Berlanti, Sarah Schechter joint. And executive producer Heather Renier. I'm going to pretend I'm pronouncing her name right.
Okay.
And Diablo Cody.
That's when I first heard the story and I heard Diablo's name, I was like, oh, I bet you that has a good shot, man.
Yeah.
She's incredibly talented.
I mean, in a world in which Riverdale can kind of make the jump from comics, and
It's true.
even like the shift from the Archie comics that we grew up on to the Archie that Mark Waid helped rebuild for Archie comics,
Right.
and then Riverdale, and Riverdale is batshit crazy in sometimes the best way, and often what is happening, but these things are elastic in ways that perhaps we hadn't given them credit for.
Maybe it's us, right?
Maybe it's us. I mean,
Maybe
I
it's
think
us. We think a thing is a thing. And it's so strange because we've had multiple incarnations of a Batman, multiple incarnations of this character, that character. And yet still, we're like, my first instinct was like, you can't do that with the Powerpuff Girls.
Well, I think the thing that we as, nerds want is give me the version of the thing that I loved in one medium in a different medium.
Yeah.
So it's always about fidelity, right? It's like, oh, that Batman isn't the Batman from the comics, or man, the Captain America never would have done that in the comics. But the very premise of it is advancing and warping and shifting things. And so that I think is maybe where there's a little hesitation, but there's a generation like your kids who's like, fuck it, twist it, warp it, give me something new.
That was her reaction. She was like, that is brilliant. My
Remix
kid loved
it.
it.
As long as the notes are the same, but it's a totally different instrument, bring it to me.
Remix.
Remix.
I will look forward to watching the CW show.
CW show.
Them stepping, Riverdale was a step outside of the DC universe, and this is another step outside of the DC universe.
Indeed.
Greg
And so
Berlanti, man.
he's got something like 75 television shows on the air.
I mean, can we get one?
Just one will be cool.
Come on, just give us one of his shows. Good for him, man. I've liked playing in his sandbox, which sounds way dirtier than I meant it, but I've loved going to Flash and Supergirl. He's doing the Lord's work, man. Making shows that we're like, are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me?
Did they give you money to make that show?
Yeah, really. His fucking lineup of shows seems like it's always his birthday. It's just like, oh my God, this is fun. Oh, you got that job too? Good for him.
Oh, for me? You shouldn't have.
Fuck. All right. Well, I'm on board. I'll watch that.
I'll
What
give
else
it
we
a
got?
go, man. Speaking of IP that is not allowed to
Stepping
pass.
back to the Powerpuff Girls.
Stepping back to the
Do you
Powerpuff.
think they change them? 3 little white girls? Makes more sense to diversify, no, if you're telling that story?
It would, but I mean, if they are going to be called like Blossom and Buttercup
And Bubbles?
and Bubbles, I feel like they still need to be those kids that we saw. But then again, like there's lots of people who have red hair. There's lots of people who are brunettes.
Feels like if you're going to reinvent a thing,
Right. Reinvent it.
I mean, and anybody who's like, come on, all the Powerpuff Girls were white. It's like, all the Powerpuff Girls weren't 20-year-olds who were bitter about being the Powerpuff Girls either. We're obviously in new territory, so let's explore
Times
further.
have changed. They've been through some shit.
Yes. So let's welcome it.
I'm going to do a deep fucking dive into Star Trek, but in the classic series, the Klingons were basically just dudes in brown face.
Yeah.
That's how they made that happen. Those
They
guys-
They didn't have lobsters on their
They
head.
didn't have the fucking ridges on their head.
They were kind of like Romulans.
Very much so. Because they had but so much makeup, and there was going to be a Gorn at some point, and that's where our makeup budget went. And then on the Next Generation, you introduced the fucking Ridgeheads. And there was an exchange between Worf and somebody else when it was on Deep Space Nine, and they traveled back in time to a classic Next Generation episode. And Worf is standing next to an actual legit like 60s Klingon. And I want to say it was like Avery Brooks as Captain Sisko, who was like, "What? Why are you both Klingon?" And he says, "We don't talk about that." And so maybe there's the like, "Didn't you used to be a little white girl?" We don't talk about.
We don't talk about that. Did speaking of shit that we this is a segue from nothing. Speaking of shit we talked about last week, which we didn't. I finally watched.
Lovecraft Country.
Fuck, is it great? Isn't it wonderful?
It is-
I'm telling you. You told me. I'm like, Mark, you gotta watch this show. I discovered myself.
I heard from a friend.
It is so fucking unbelievably good, and that chase that you described was absolutely beautiful. They wasted no fucking time introducing you to Lovecraftian concepts and characters. When I watched that trailer, I was like, I'm probably like episode 4. We'll hear a lot of noises in the woods until maybe we see a Cthulhu type thing in the middle of it. Fucking opening scene, and then the scene is a dream, so you're like, all right, but then once they get into the story proper,
Yep.
they're unleashing night beasts and stuff like that. It's fucking intense. It's really well done, and I liked Journey Smollett in Birds of Prey, but she's fucking wonderful in this.
She's a firecracker.
Yeah. Oh.
And
But she
like-
was also in with Misha in Underground as well.
Yeah. But I mean, and she's one of those actresses who should have been given lots more chances at bat. Not that she hasn't worked; she's worked relatively steadily.
Yeah.
But she was what? She was on fucking Full House when she was like 4 or 5. She was in Eve's
She's
Bayou.
like a child actor, yeah.
And she just brings it, like all of it.
She's so great.
Tisha fucking Lewis.
And it's also like, once again, HBO like fucking giving an education to American students who didn't get educated in American schools as you learn all sorts of new stuff, man. It's really well done, spooky, and also like, I mean, I don't want to spoil anything, but like the end of episode 2, I'm like, oh, we're moving on.
Yeah.
We're going elsewhere.
The second episode is for me not quite as effective as the first, and I think because it feels like they put 4 or 5 episodes of TV into the same episode of TV.
Yes.
So like a lot of shit happens.
There was a
lot of
bunch.
shit happens fast, but there were just these moments where like there's this great opening sequence where suddenly everybody's kind of like living in their best life and moving on up.
They used the song. I
Which
was
is
so
literally
delighted.
like a Jefferson's, and you're like, this. I love the the sort of anachronistic use of music.
They've done that a few times in the
Done
show.
it a few times, and yeah, there's
It was a joyous moment, man, because when the episode began and they started playing that song, like I was, of course, able to sing every fucking lyric. And my wife was on the couch and she was like, how do you know every lyric? to the fucking Jeffersons. I was like, I watched it incessantly. I said, really, the question is, how do you not know every lyric to the Jeffersons? Yeah, like where was your childhood?
There were 3 channels, and this was the show you watched.
It's a deluxe apartment in the sky. How hard is that to remember? But yeah, great stuff, man. How many episodes are they doing?
I think it's 10. I believe it's
fucking
10.
JJ and Jordan, man. Like, can I have a little bit of that talent?
And fucking Misha Green just like wrestling it all to the ground. It is, and I never read the book, but the book is.
That was my question: is in the book, are they African American characters?
They are,
because I've read there was I don't know where I watched a video afterwards and something, and somebody was talking about like this book passed around a lot. And the people it was being passed around to, like, were black, and I was like, well, then it must be that because the author is white.
Yes.
So I was like, wait a second. So did this guy write white people, or did he write black people? And did Misha change it, or was that what it was? And it turns out that's the source material.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, and it seems to be.
I watched an interview with the guy, and he was just like, I designed this to be bought.
Yeah.
Like he said he was very upfront. He's like, I came up with this thing. I wrote the script. Like I wanted it to get made, and it got picked up, with the book. And then within like 2 years became a fucking thing or something like that. But he was like, oh yeah, I wanted this to be something, not just like, oh, I love, him and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think the embroidery of the work that Misha's doing is because the book is like interconnected short stories.
Yes.
And so is trying to make a somewhat linear story out of it while still
so the book is unrelated. It's just bang bang.
I think
bang.
some of the characters kind of come in and out and bob and weave, but each story is separate and unique unto itself.
It's fantastic.
But yeah, the show I'm kind of in love with it, and I'm even when like the second episode, like we talked about, is a little more uneven. It's uneven for reasons of overreach and not underreach.
Agreed.
Like it's trying to do a lot.
And I mean, for me, this is how I judge things that I like. I would never do that. That would never occur to me. Holy shit, that's really fucking good. Tony Goldwyn doing a good job playing the creepiest white man ever.
Basically playing like old Doc Savage.
Yes, that's what it felt like.
He's like the man of bronze.
Yeah, it's good. If you haven't checked it out yet, the only drawback is that it's HBO, so they're dishing it out.
Right.
One fucking serving at a time, so you can only watch 2 right now. But man, they were worth watching, and I watched them back to back, and it was like, oh, this is amazing, and then nothing after that, where you're like, no, and then try finding something to watch in the wake of that for the rest of the fucking night.
You know what you gotta do? Shave your balls.
Got it, man. You gotta get manscaped. when you're like, there's no more fucking TV to watch. Jennifer's like, let's watch the 3rd episode. I was like, not till Sunday.
Like eggs in a Ziploc.
All right, what do I got next?
We're talking about
foot. If anyone's wondering, I keep like itching my fucking foot.
I'm sorry.
We got mosquitoes out here, right?
We do.
My wife's been trying to tell me for like 20 years. She's like, they don't have mosquitoes in Los Angeles. I was like, then what bites me?
Yeah, you need still water, and there are a fair number of pools.
Yeah.
There are new mosquitoes out also in the last few years that are tinier, and they don't go above your knee. They only bite your ankles and your feet. It's a new kind of mosquito to Los Angeles.
An ankle mosquito?
It's an ankle mosquito.
It's like the spruce goose of mosquitoes, like they don't fly that high off the ground.
Like on the East Coast in the Midwest, you hear them in your
ear.
You smack them on your arms, but these don't go. These are like ankle biter mosquitoes. It's like a different species.
Little fucking ankle biters.
Fucking toddlers.
I'm feeling it, man.
Disney is making another Haunted Mansion movie.
They should. Honestly, like, the one they did do with Eddie Murphy wasn't it.
Yeah.
And it's great. Like, it's a great concept, great lore, cool ideas. When we were working on the Kingdom Keeper series for Disney Plus, one of the episodes took place entirely in the Haunted Mansion and was, there's so much backstory that you could play with. Like, I could see that.
Yeah. Katie Dippold, who wrote The Heat and wrote The
Heat,
McCarthy.
like with Sandra Bullock and
Sandra
Melissa McCarthy. I love that movie.
As well as the Ghostbusters reboot, is taking a whack.
That one, not so much, but I loved The Heat.
Yeah. And I think, the trick is going to be, at least according to this article from Deadline, figuring out a way to make it both scary and Disney. Because, the problem with the Eddie Murphy movie was that it wasn't particularly scary. It was just, flubber with fucking ghosts and a black dude.
God, remember that whole
Again,
era?
I could probably sell that right now. Flubber, but with ghosts and a black dude.
I buy it. I bought that pitch.
Done!
Remember that? There was that era where Eddie Murphy did a lot of Disney movies?
Yeah, he wanted it. It was like Nutty Professor.
Where he was in the family, right? Like after Mulan, he was like firmly ensconced until he became Donkey and left to go to DreamWorks.
Fuck you.
Yeah, I'm down for this. It's a cool concept. You could get a better movie out of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm.
Can I play one of the hitchhiking ghosts? Can I be Ezra, my bowler? No, he's got to be thin. I'll be the little guy. It's like.
I mean, I'm always suspect of the sort of ride to movie transition, except I really loved the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
That very like the gold standard of ride to movie transition.
Totally. Because at the end of the day, it's not about whatever was in the ride. The ride is like, it's about pirates in the Caribbean.
Yeah, we just took the name and we did our own thing.
Yeah, so Haunted Mansion, I get how that works.
Good work.
A little less excited about Jungle Cruise, but that's just because I saw a trailer for it.
Did you see the trailer?
Yeah.
And?
Sorry, Andrew, I didn't mean to. Just like Jesus. I've never seen The Rock look quite so perfunctory. There's a feel that it's, and part of it is he's playing a character who's like going through this Jungle Cruise as if he's done it a million times to get money out of passengers before Emily Blunt shows up, and it's like, no, I've got a real cruise, and like real shit gets scary. But like, there's so much going through the motions vibe from The Rock, who has never looked like a dude who goes through the motions.
No, he pours himself into everything.
Yeah.
When is this movie coming?
Well, it was supposed to be out this year, like everything else was.
Do you think it'll go to the app?
They're now saying it's next July 30th.
So they're like, we ain't putting no Rock movie on an app. We're gonna make all the monies.
Yeah, I think they're
especially because like it follows on the heels of was that Jumanji franchise, right? So
yeah,
maybe they'll be like, we'll get some of that.
Well, they're all hoping. Everybody's hoping for some of that sweet Jumanji money.
So every morning I wake up and I dream about some of that fucking Jumanji money.
I think I'm hearing the drums of
Or
Jumanji.
Jumanji 2. How many did they make so far?
They've made Jumanji The Next Level.
So there's only been 2.
There's only been 2.
So they got a fucking the end of the trilogy is coming one day.
Jumanji, The Last Jedi.
We got a lot out of that, man. Yes.
Rise of Jumanji.
What else we got, Mark?
One of the things that came out, it's technically DC related, but did not break at the Fandome.
Okay.
Broke just after the Fandome. Is their sort of upcoming roster of new DC animated movies.
Oh, yeah. Why didn't they break that at Fandom?
I'm not entirely sure, but or maybe it was something that was supposed to be part of Fandom, and they had last minute sort of shunted off a bunch of the panels into a different event that's going to happen in September, including one that I moderated. Deathstroke, Knights and Dragons.
Yeah.
Which hey, whatever. That's fine. It's their stuff. They can do what they want with it.
Right.
But IGN had a Superman Man of Tomorrow panel on the Sunday after Fandome, where they said they are doing a bunch of movies, including Superman Man of Tomorrow, which is already on digital, Batman Soul of the Dragon.
Oh, that's the 70s Batman that Bruce Timm's doing.
Uh-huh.
That's cool.
Justice Society World War II.
Oh.
And Batman The Long Halloween.
Yes, I saw this. Now, how exciting is that?
That's
and they're going to do it in Tim Sale style?
I hope so.
I hope so.
Man, that's so beautiful.
Yeah. Very distinctive.
Yeah, very. I mean, I don't know how that style translates to animation, but it's gorgeous. And it's going to be a 2-parter in the same way that The Dark Knight Returns was.
I wonder if they'll be able to get Jeff to write it. He's not a Marvel anymore.
He's not a Marvel anymore. And, he's done it once.
He certainly knows screenwriting, and he certainly knows that story very well.
Indeed.
That's exciting, man. That's a good one to make. particularly if they keep it in sales style.
Yeah, I mean, and I haven't caught up with as much of those as I probably should, but I'm rather impressed that it's a business for them. And
The movies.
Yeah. The animated movies, and they're all done with care. I
Yeah.
mean, when I watched the Deathstroke one, I was like, oh shit, this is pretty good, because I haven't literally seen one since we did a commentary track.
You haven't been keeping up with them and stuff like Justice League, the Dark Side War, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I haven't been. And yeah, they're still making them. They're still making them good and bloody as fuck.
They're grown up, man.
They're grown up.
I mean, you're talking about the company that makes that Harley Quinn cartoon, which is pretty darn grown up itself.
Which I do love so much.
Oh, it's so good. That's the one I'm telling you that I'm like, man, why didn't I think of this? Batman fucking characters cursing like that. I was born to make that show.
He fucks bats. I don't fuck bats.
I don't fuck bats. What do you got now?
Westworld was based on a Michael Crichton book.
It was. Same guy that wrote Jurassic Park.
Indeed.
In fact, a lot of people, when they saw Jurassic Park, said, oh, it's Westworld with dinosaurs. Kind of was.
Precisely. Michael Crichton also wrote a book called Sphere.
Yeah.
Sphere. The Sphere.
They made a movie of it once.
They did, yes, with Dustin Hoffman as an action hero.
Yeah.
And Peter Coyote was the mysterious government dude, and Sharon Stone was a biologist. I want to say Sam Jackson was in it. Probably.
And now?
All right, Sam Jackson. I'm sorry for
nailed it.
blowing out anybody's earbuds right there.
You nailed it. Are they remaking this thing?
They are making it into a TV show by the guys who do the Westworld television show.
Oh,
for
so
HBO.
what?
So
Nolan?
yes. So
brother?
Jonah Nolan and Lisa Joy, and it's also being written by Denise Tay, who's an executive producer and writer on Westworld itself, who's going to be the showrunner. And
What?
Team Downey is involved, so RDJ is going to get a little chunk of this.
And RDJ, they just did Perry Mason, right?
Yes. And they're doing...
Andrew in the back. Yeah!
They did.
He loves
My favorite
that Perry
show that's
Mason.
ever been and ever will be.
I came close to watching that this week, finishing it. My wife was just like, Perry Mason? I was like, not yet. We had just watched Lovecraft Country, and I was like, it's not going to come close, so let's not.
I'm hoping for like a mild tapeworm to kind of lay me up for a while. And
We'll get there. I watched 2 episodes. I'll watch the rest, but Andrew swears by it.
Yes, somebody needs to. I haven't seen it. I've heard also good things.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things, too.
But yeah, man, I ain't got that kind of time.
What else you got?
The King's Man is not going the way of Mulan.
Oh, the King's Man, the prequel?
The prequel to The King's Men. It was supposed to open on September 18th.
Yes.
No.
That's not going to happen now.
September.
September. I remember that month. That's when the quarantine began.
Pretty much. February 26, 2021.
So they believe in this?
I
Enough
think-
to be like, people will come out for it.
You know, I mean, I think...
Who's the star? Ray Fiennes?
Ray Fiennes. And some very handsome English dude who I've never seen before, which seems to be the way the Kingsman movies work, which is Taron Egerton, nobody had seen before, and then that was his
No,
first
but
film.
that was before the whole world collapsed.
That's true.
I don't know if if let's say you liked the first 2 Kingsman movie, which I did.
Yeah.
Totally fun. But this is the prequel with none of the characters you really know.
Correct.
And they're asking you come out in a world, where we still don't have a vaccine. Well, maybe by then we'll have a vaccine or something. I just don't. I don't know. If I was in charge, I'd be like, let's stream that one.
I mean, I think we're beginning to
Not
see...
to dismiss it as like it's unworthy cinema, but just in the world we live in right now, is
Right.
that the mask-worthy movie that people are like, I'll go out and risk COVID for this? Is that Tenet?
It's not Tenet. I don't think it's...
Is Tenet at this point?
It's unclear.
Did Andrew just say no?
He said no.
Did you see it?
Nobody's seen it. Nobody stateside has seen it.
Good point. I've read some people getting on planes to go see it.
Which seems insane.
Within country, I guess. I didn't hear of anybody leaving America to go see it because I don't know if they'd even let you into England right now.
Yeah, everybody's built a border wall.
But wherever
to
it's
keep
playing,
us out.
some people have been like jumping on planes to go see it.
Wait, Tom Cruise saw it.
I saw that video, man. Like where he was like, look at me at the movies. Ha! You had me at Tenet. Is that a dude trying to get a job, you think? Or
It feels like that's a dude who's just getting paid. Like, how much will it take to
are you shitting me?
I mean, Warner Brothers paid him for that.
Why? Do they have any connection with him on anything? Tom Cruise?
I don't believe they do.
I mean, they've made movies with him, but
he's usually a Paramount guy.
Never occurred to me that maybe it was go
I
see
don't,
Tenet.
I don't think Tom Cruise is, out of the goodness of his own heart, shooting himself as he drives up to movie theater.
That part
standing
was
in
a
front of
little.
a giant poster that says Tenet. I'm going to the movies, guys.
It was, and also like talking to people in the theater, like afterwards and stuff.
Oh, it's great.
Had he ever? He's never worked with Nolan.
No.
And maybe is he over there shooting Mission Impossible? That's why he went to the movies. Yeah. So there you go. He's like, I'm over there shooting.
Or is in the whatever it is, like that's a commercial for that movie.
Yeah.
And so Warner Brothers paid for that commercial for that movie.
Think so?
So how much does Tom Cruise cost to get him to be?
If I'd known we could have got him, I would have paid him to. Hey, I'm going to see Jay and Silent Bob reboot.
I mean, now you know. He's got a price.
Yeah, everyone does.
Everyone does. Now you're just haggling for how much?
Did he? His review was just like it was great.
It was his review.
Have you read any reviews yet?
I read a couple. Hollywood Reporter's review was kind of sour to mixed. Variety's was better. I think that the general consensus is it's gorgeous and also confusing and a little ponderous. Sounds like a Nolan movie.
Andrew from the back. Sounds like
Andrew
Nolan movie.
from the salt mines.
I know, really. A little salty back there.
Nobody seems to have said yet, oh my God, it's worth almost dying for.
Right.
But if you live in a place where, science rules and you can actually go to the theater,
Science rules.
It's like, hey, cool, that movie was fun, especially movies are cool.
Hey, cool. Science rules. Sooner or later, we'll get it.
We will.
What are they doing for us? Did they say yet?
For LA?
Yeah. Do they move it? It's like, do we have a release date?
We don't have an opening date yet. I think San Diego is opening before we will. San Francisco will open before we will. But we are still sort of county by county, and we're still a ways away.
No Tenet for you.
No Tenet.
Wear your
for you.
mask. Be good. You'll get some Tenet.
Yeah. I wonder if the dividing point for Disney between Kingsman and Mulan is literally they know.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Kingsman is a Disney movie now?
It's a Fox movie, so now it's a Disney film.
Oh, my God. I forgot. You're absolutely fucking right.
Yeah.
And they still are like, nah, we think people will come out and see it.
Well, they're pushing it 6 months, and hopefully by the beginning of next year. But I think that they don't Mulan has a massive children's audience built into it, and parents will pay the $20-$30 for that in a way that I would pay $20 to see The Kingsman, but the numbers are not as overwhelming between those
No,
two.
but not everyone's as stupid as we are.
Not everybody
We'll pay $20 to watch it. Interesting.
However, today, as we are taping, is opening night for the New Mutants.
It's happening now?
Yeah. It's
After all this time?
It's in theaters today.
So if I wanted to after this, I can go. No, we don't have. Movie theaters aren't open.
Well, there's drive-ins that are showing it.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
So I could go fucking check out the New Mutants at a drive-in if I wanted
and
to?
there are still, I think, in smaller towns that aren't nearly as badly hit as major metropolitan areas are. It's still opening in some theaters.
This movie's been delayed for a long time, as we all
long-ass
know.
time.
Josh Boone movie.
Yeah. It's projected to make something like $8 million in its opening weekend, which would make it the highest grossing movie of the last 6 months.
Is that right? Also, like a lifetime higher gross than the Fantastic Four movie, when you think about it.
Indeed.
Yeah, well, I've been looking forward to it, but this theatrical release just means that it seemed like it was a formality in terms of like their contract. This movie has to be released theatrically or something like that, because it seemed like a no-brainer to put this on Disney Plus.
Yeah, it must have been a contractual thing, and to a certain degree, it's also probably a bit of cover, because the movie is not, according to the reviews of the people who've seen it, particularly good.
Oh, they've reviewed it too.
Yeah, critics didn't go to
I saw a lot of press people going like, "We're not reviewing this movie because Disney won't provide a safe environment to preview the movie."
And they wouldn't send out links. So listen, we're not going to go to movies and see it. But yeah, the popular consensus, the vibe on the street is not great. And Josh Boone continues to say dumbass things in public.
What did he say?
Most recently,
Yes.
he did an interview with IO9 in which he talked about the casting of Sunspot,
Okay.
who, according to the original text created by a fellow named Bob McLeod, Sunspot was a sort of Afro-Latino character from Brazil. Parents were rich, came from wealth, but that was part of the fundamental foundation of that character. And Josh Boone in casting was like, I don't really believe that this guy wouldn't be white.
It became a
whitewashing thing. And the quote that incensed most people was something to the effect of, I didn't really care about the racism in Brazil, sort of light-skinned versus dark-skinned. I was just looking for the best actor, and the one who could most convey the silver spoon aspect of this guy. And so we opened up a casting call, and this white kid walked in, and he seemed to be, he was really great. Maybe if we kept on looking for a black person, we would have found somebody who was just as good, but we stopped.
He said that.
Yes.
I mean, less is more in the interview circuit.
Less is more in the interview circuit. And then Bob McLeod went on, on the internet to give a statement.
Bob McLeod, co-creator
of New Mutants.
Of the New Mutants, along with what? Bill Sienkiewicz?
Sienkiewicz. And Bob McLeod was like, they spelt my name wrong in the credits.
Yeah.
And it's like you had 3 years. This movie's been done.
Yeah. It's a big part of that dude's life's work, right? And so they make a movie of it, so you're like, oh my God, how cool. And, I got to get credited. And they fucking spell his name wrong.
And they spell his name
wrong. That
wrong.
is,
And,
there errors happen in making movies, and there's like thousands of eyes and stuff, and not everyone, probably is familiar with the creators of the source material and know how their name is spelled. But still, that all being said, there's no fucking excuse to get the name of one of the fucking creators wrong. His name's going to be up front in the credits.
Yeah. And, he similarly was not pleased with the decisions to, Danny Moonstar wasn't really cast with a particularly, Native American looking actress. I'm not sure the ethnicity of the actors they did cast. And he also went in about Sunspot and was like, yeah, but a big part of this character's identity and story was the fact that he looked the way he looked, being from where he was from. And to strip that from the movie feels like it's being disingenuous to what this is all about. And so, New Mutants in theaters today.
New Mutants making friends and influencing people left and right.
Yes.
I look forward to seeing it. I won't be going to a theater to see it, but it sounds like it'll be streaming pretty soon.
It would not surprise me if it was.
Good. And I don't mean that in a negative, it's going to be streaming because it's not good. I just mean...
Yeah, the windows are shrinking.
At least now we're closer to the release than we've ever been before. It's been fucking years. So if it's out in theaters, guess what? We get to see it home soon.
Yeah. And our final story for the week is the fate of a little brand called Fangoria.
Oh, yes. Fangoria, when we were kids, was everything. It was the internet before the internet existed.
It was. And if you were a horror fan, it was Famous Monsters, and it was Fangoria.
And also, Famous Monsters predates us by Forrest Ackerman's magazine, been around forever, and is the granddaddy of movie monster magazines. But Fangoria embraced, whereas Famous Monsters embraced monsters, Fangoria was like, here's the blood, here's the fucking the chainsaw killers, here's the fucking the slashers. They were not afraid to show the gore.
It was the penthouse to Famous Monsters Playboy.
Yes, well put. Where are they these days? I understand they had a moment where they were bought by a company in Texas, and that dude who runs that company turned out to be not a great person.
Yeah, I think they had some unfortunate owners over the course of the last few years, but they have since been bought now by Wonderwall Entertainment, who is bringing it all back, bringing back Fangoria as a magazine, as a print magazine, has plans to do something with Fangoria's corporate siblings, which were Gore Zone, which was even gorier than Fangoria, and Starlog, which actually... Starlog, which predates Fangoria by a couple of years.
It does. Starlog is the internet before the internet existed.
Indeed.
Starlog was Fangoria for sci-fi fans.
Indeed. And I worked at Starlog, my very first job out of college.
Get the fuck out of here.
I was an editor for Starlog magazine, and my name appears probably in a good 30 or 40 issues of Fangoria as a consulting editor because the edit staffs were so small, everybody read everything. So
you got to be in a bunch.
So I got to.
Look at you, man.
I know.
So Fango coming back.
Fango's
as
coming
we
back.
called it back in the day.
Fango.
Starlog coming back?
Well,
Starlog gone?
Apparently, there's going to be
Starburst still publishes in England.
They do,
and they've been publishing longer than Starlog even.
Fangoria Studios, Fangoria Podcast Network, Fangoria Digital, Starlog Digital, and Gore Zone Digital in 2021. And Fangoria Studios is aiming to produce and distribute both fiction and nonfiction content across all platforms.
I would make a movie for those cats.
Indeed. And
fucking Fangoria, that'd be awesome to see that name at the beginning of your movie.
Cool?
Yeah.
And they're sort of focusing on championing new and diverse creators.
Oh, then that's not me at all.
I'm old and white.
I will be yes, those things he said. I will be supporting the work of these young and diverse creators.
But that, it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
At this point, that is a lot of where the money is. That is a lot of where the eyeballs are.
I saw a story similar to that this week. They announced that Orion is coming back, and that Orion is going to be chiefly diverse films, like filmmakers who've unsung, who've not had their voices championed or platformed before.
I mean, it seems
smart because that's a well-known name, and why not? It's just sitting there as a division. Why not put it towards something?
And it feels like we are kind of slowly crawling ourselves back to where we were in 1990, when home video gave birth to this blossoming of sort of low to mid-budget African American movies. It was a sort of second blaxploitation, and you get Rusty Cundiff, and you get House Party, and you get Boys in the Hood, and you get
Menace to Society.
Yeah, all of it was driven by home video. Home video, we can sell it. If you put a black person in it, if they got a gun, we'll sell it. And some of those movies got to be great. And, some of them got to be actual fucking high art. Some of them were just exploitation, like everything else was, and that's fine. But since that sort of heyday of the early 90s, which stretched until, New Jack City, and kind of then finally got you all the way up to Blade, it all that's gone away. With home video, that desire for, we can sell it if you can make it. It's the thing that made horror work so easily. Fuck it, if you can make it.
Honestly, the reason my career went as long as it did wasn't because of our theatrical box office, it's because home video.
Yeah.
We always sold very well on home video, so they were like, whatever they don't do at the box office, they more than make up for in home video. So believe me, I'm part of that. Without home video, my career would have ended a long time ago.
Yeah, and people were willing to take chances, especially in genre, because if you delivered a certain thing, then the audience would show up for it anyway. And then that's how you get your Sam Raimis, and that's how you get your fucking, Carpenter was a little bit before then, but a big fat middle of his career is sure, man, I'll make Ghost of Mars.
You referenced Rusty Cundiff. I think I just read that they're doing Tales from the Hood 3 or 4.
Yeah, because, again, it's horror plus black people. It seems that works.
And it's also a pedigree and a known name at this point, too.
Yeah. So I'm encouraged by the sort of Orion decision and the Fangoria decision because, Fango is a fantastic brand. And there's lots of love out there for Fango. And to see them sort of synthesize and redirect that love into something new and exciting is new and exciting.
And it's and they're out of the hands of the guy who was no good or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. What a happy ending for Fangoria thus far.
Absolutely.
That's the end of the news?
It's the end of the news, my friend.
Marc got you news. Give it up for Marc, man. Yeah. We're going to dive to Q&A now, ladies and gentlemen. But before we do that, in case you've tuned in late, the great Chadwick Boseman, who played Black Panther, passed away at age 43. We eulogized him at the top of the show. We're talking about this loss and whatnot. Comes out of nowhere for a lot of us. A lot of folks online in the chat room and before we jumped on the show tonight, feeling a little lost and of course upset. Nobody likes to see anybody die, particularly somebody we all fucking loved in a bunch of movies. So our hearts go out to his friends, his family, his fans, everybody affected by his loss. It's a fucking tragedy. Way too young.
Way, way too young, with too many days ahead.
Yeah, and with so much talent. All right. We go to Q&A portion, ladies and gentlemen. The Q&A portion of the show, like the whole show itself, sponsored by the good folks at Manscaped. Trim your goddamn ball hair. Shave them balls. What do we got, JC? JC owns this here drinking establishment, the Scum and Villainy Cantina. He's sitting in the booth where the owner sits. What do you got for us, JC?
The owner's booth.
The owner's booth over there.
That big fat nerd says one of his earliest memories of a big event in comics was Marvel vs. DC in the mid-'90s.
You're a pup.
He loved seeing Green Lantern versus Silver Surfer, Lobo versus Logan, Cap versus Bat. It was the most epic thing he had ever seen.
No.
He says it was a desperate move by a struggling industry. How desperate do the studios need to be to pool their IP into MCU versus DC EU event film?
It won't happen for 10 years, I feel like. I think eventually I'll see that in my lifetime before I leave this world. Knock wood, if I live long enough. I think they will do it, but I don't think Marvel has any reason to even think about it. They got oodles of IP and characters they haven't even touched, and they're making mints worth of money with those characters. Why do they have to go, across the street to fuck around with DC? So I don't see that happening for quite some time. I think, what we're going to see is a lot of like DC kind of taking a page out of Marvel's book now with like a Flash movie that has a bunch of characters in it from a bunch of different other movies. But I don't think I got to imagine, like, while there's still fucking lifeblood in this shit, like, they could still drain a nickel out of their own IP without teaming up. And, it's not like when you make a deal with Sony because you want to put Spider-Man in your Marvel movies, that makes sense. Like, this is fucking massive. It would be the biggest story, the entertainment story of the year, and perhaps the highest grossing film of all time. You want to knock Endgame off the top spot? DC versus Marvel, Marvel versus DC. Have it be a two-parter, and the second part is the amalgam universe. Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I think the only way it happens is if
Disney buys Warner.
If AT&T and Warner Brothers decide to offload DC Comics, and Disney decides to buy it, and then it becomes, we're not colluding anymore, we just bought them.
But just the same way that, like, Dark Horse used to publish the Aliens comics and has forever. Now, the Aliens comics are going to be published by Marvel because Marvel owns fucking 20th Century Fox, and they're like, why would we? We own a comic book company. We own this character. Put it in, and they're going to do all the reprints of the Dark Horse stuff and then start telling their own stories.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, to your point, big fat nerd, it requires desperation. And at this moment, neither of these companies are desperate.
They're not desperate enough.
And so yeah.
But something to look forward to.
the cratering of an industry.
Exactly. When all the money is gone, then you'll get
seriously.
the movie you want to see.
Like if we were quarantined for like a decade, and it was like, how do we get people to come back out? How do we get people back into movie theaters when it might kill you while you sit there?
Disney's like, I know how to do it. The King's Man.
Come on back for that whole Ray Fiennes action.
Are you sure you want to fucking invest that deep in the King's Man?
But yeah, I don't like you. I don't see it happening for a very, very long time, if ever, unless there's a massive change in who owns what and when.
Hopefully I'll live another 20 to 30 years, and if that's the case, they better get it done in 20 to 30 years. That's all I'm saying. All right, thank you, big fat nerd. What do you got, JC? Give us another one.
Dan Sweet wants to know, he says his favorite character is Thunderstrike from the Thor comics. He's an underrated hero. He wants to see him live action in film or TV. Who are your underrated heroes that you'd like to see brought to life?
I say this all the time, and I will say it until they finally do it. The Question at DC Comics deserves his or her own thing. A person whose fucking mask is no features is unsettling and fucking creepy. This person talking to you and you don't see a mouth moving because there is no fucking mouth or eyes, like that. I'm still carrying the sign, holding the torch, if you will. They got to do The Question sooner or later. They got to. The closest we ever came was Rorschach in Watchmen. But man, oh man, could you imagine? So I'm all about The Question. What about you?
I have wanted, and I know movies about this character exist, and they're good, but they're old. They were made in like the 70s, early 80s. But Lone Wolf and Cub, I think, is a massive, deep cut classic of the genre. Like it is one of the finest comic books ever published.
So much so that it was stolen for Mandalorian.
Indeed, hook, line, and sinker.
I'm sorry, homaged in a Mandalorian.
But I think that like if you legit made a Lone Wolf and Cub TV show and gave it Game of Thrones resources or fucking Lovecraft Country or Watchmen, like an epic feudal Japanese tale about revenge and parenthood, fucking all day long.
Yeah.
All fucking day long. So yeah.
Speaking of fucking revenge and parenthood, you see the trailer for Raised by Wolves?
I did.
It's a series. I thought it was a one-off movie, but it's a Ridley Scott fucking series on HBO.
HBO The Max.
Man, they spent all the money too. It looks phenomenal.
Yeah, a bunch of children raised by a
is that the first time he's ever done a serial?
I think Scott Free as a production company has.
So he's not directing this?
I think he, at the very least, directed the pilot.
Right.
I'm not sure how much of it he's done, but they are absolutely saying from the maker of Alien,
they are leaning
and Gladiator,
into it. And it looks it too. As you look at the scope, you're like, oh. But what? Do you know the source material? Is it based on a book or comic?
I'm not sure.
Looks good.
It does look good. It does look
good time, man. In terms of like genre stuff, like that Lovecraft Country. Coming on the heels of like, not too long ago, we had fucking Watchmen as well. Like some really great shit out there.
Hell yeah. So, yeah, Lone Wolf and Cub and The Question.
Together in one movie.
When you meet the question, you kill the question.
They can't speak the same language, but they're both fighting crime.
I mean, it's squishy.
All right, that's two. What about the third and final, JC? What question can we answer these fine folks?
Maya Wallace was wondering...
Ms. Mia Wallace.
What movies have you watched that helped with grieving the loss of a loved one?
What a great question. What movies have I enjoyed while grieving the loss of a loved one?
Or that helped you?
That helped me. I mean, I still, to this day, whenever I watch The World According to Garp, it makes me think of my dad, and because he took me to see it when I was like 12, and I was way too young for this movie. Like, but he trusted me enough to go like, no, you're not. Like, you can handle this. Yeah, there's a blowjob in it, and some guy gets his dick bit off, but just don't tell your mother.
It's good family entertainment.
Yeah, it's like this is a father-son thing.
Sometimes dicks get bit off.
You keep your mouth shut, I'll take you to a lot more of these movies where dudes get their dicks bit off. I'm like, thanks, Dad. That movie, I remember watching after my dad passed away, and it made me feel a bit comforted. That's the one that leaps to mind. What about you? What a great question, though.
Yeah, I mean, I
tend to try to be creative when somebody passes away, because that to me is like, raging against the dying light. If death is destruction, being creative is the opposite of that. That's what makes me feel better.
I don't have a ton of experience with this. Like,
you don't have a lot of death.
Both of my parents are still alive. My grandparents died over a decade ago, and it was never, there was grief, but again, 96 and 97,
right.
It becomes, at least for me in my heart, a little bit more celebratory, which is like, that's a hell of a fucking run. Like, you made it 97
long
years.
lives, yeah.
Long lives. So I have never really felt the sting of somebody passing away perhaps before their time. I did have a friend when I was 19, 20 years old, who I'd known since I was a kid, who died at like 18 of a cerebral hemorrhage, like just one day just didn't wake up.
Fuck.
And I, ironically, the thing that I watched in the wake of his passing was The Exorcist, because that was a movie that we watched together, far too young to be watching The Exorcist. I tend to...
I was watching dudes get their dicks bit off. You were watching girls screwing themselves with crucifixes.
It's a genital film festival.
Yeah.
But it is less for me about processing the trauma or the grief and more about me remembering the person.
Same thing with my dad.
You know, and so like how do I pay tribute to the time that we spent together? Then let's do the thing that we did once or twice or 4 or 5 times. I mean, I think that and we had talked about this back in March, I think, the ongoing trauma that we're all kind of feeling on a daily, weekly, monthly basis of just living
low grade, low key trauma, which is not enough to register like I need help, but enough that it's just this dull boo in the background.
We're constantly processing in new ways because it's never really fading, it's just always here. And for me, that becomes a nostalgia thing, like going back into stuff that I like and stuff that I love, stuff that makes me feel good. Television has been a boon for me in that way, where it's like go back and just swim in a show that you love, and you can do so for months and months on end. You know, when The West Wing has been a big balm for me, and so I was very excited to hear that there's a reunion coming.
Yeah, they're doing a thing.
They're doing a thing, which so far.
And rereading an old script or something.
Yeah, they're doing a sort of live stage performance of an older episode, and so they get the band back together, which is like it's awesome because that. You know, I felt that very acutely in November of 2016, the desire to kind of live in the idealism of a government that seemed to function based on very high principles.
Give me a TV president. No, another TV president.
Give me another one.
Give me a fake one. There you go.
You know, and recently it's been Battlestar Galactica, which is like, oh, all right, you know, this show can be dark as fuck, but it's very much about people persevering and doing, you know, their best in impossible scenarios, led by people who want the best for them, flawed though they may be, and overreach though they might do. It's still based
also
on...
a quaint portrayal of Democrats and Republicans.
Very much so.
Where you're like, oh, remember when they just didn't get along, like, you know,
like, yeah,
ideologically?
Yeah, it's like, but we both want the same thing. We're just going to go about it different ways.
Right.
Which no longer seems to, sadly, be the case. So yeah, it becomes a dip into fantasy, sometimes real-world fantasy, sometimes not. But yeah, it's nostalgia and or the totem of the person who passed.
Brings them back for that little moment in time. If you're feeling blue, movies about death that like always made me feel pretty good in terms of like I don't connect them to anybody particular in my life, losing anybody particular in my life, but Meet Joe Black, oddly enough.
Really?
Which has one of the craziest death scenes ever, which we see on Twitter all the time with Brad Pitt getting hit by the fucking car and going over. But Anthony Hopkins has this really wonderful line at the end of the movie when, spoilers, it's about Anthony Hopkins plays a guy who's about to die and death comes to visit him in the form of Brad Pitt. And it's like based on Death Takes a Holiday kind of thing, where he's like, I've come to take you, but like, you know, I'm going to give you more time. And you're going to show me, you know, why life is so worth living and stuff. It's never occurred to me to ask why. So, you know, Anthony Hopkins is escorting death around. Everyone's like, who is this guy and stuff. He has this big shindig for his 60th birthday at the end. And he's giving this speech, and he knows at the end of this night that they're leaving because death has told him, it's like, we leave after the party. So he gets up and he gives this, you know, powerful speech where at first it starts very superficially, but then Anthony Hopkins, like in character, of course, stops talking, and oh my God, it still fucking chokes me up. It's so well delivered. It's a good line, but it's fucking sold by a guy who's an absolute master. You know, in a movie that you wouldn't necessarily think would have this moment, but it is about fucking death. The whole movie's predicated with death. But and I'll never forget this line. I think about it all the fucking time. I thought about it when I was on the fucking table, getting the heart attack, getting the stent put in me and shit during the heart attack. He goes, it's either 60 or 65. Maybe it's 65. 65, or I want to say 60. He goes, 60 years. Didn't it all go by in a blink? And I fucking still think about this to this day. A dopey throwaway line in a movie that most people never really considered past their first viewing, but I thought it was like such a profoundly moving line. Like the dude was standing there in front of a bunch of people he knew, like, you know, the highlight of his life, fucking his birthday, and rich people. He flies in helicopters and shit like that. And how he summed it all up, what made him very introspective was he goes, 60 years. Didn't it go by in a blink? And, the party's just like, nobody's like, "It dead, motherfucker!" Like, everyone's just like, kind of like, oh, that's... But they don't know what he knows.
Right.
So it's especially poignant because, it's not just a guy on his birthday go, "Oh, it went by so fast." It's a dude who literally knows he's about to die. And he's like, didn't it all go by in a fucking blink? So good. And what else? Oh, you want to feel good about fucking life and death, or okay about death? Watch you the last 10 minutes of Big Fish by Tim Burton. Holy fuck. You want to talk about a beautiful ending to a movie, man. Main character gets to see all the people that meant something to him throughout his entire life. That's how we should all fucking pass. We should all be so lucky that we get to see everyone who made us who we are before we leave this world. Fuck. That movie still gets me to this day. And that's not like the obvious choice, right? Like, it's not like nobody goes like, Big Fish will help you deal with fucking death. But art, when done well, nobody's ready for this. Nobody wants this. Like, nobody heads toward it, and the people that do intentionally mystify us because all of us dream about staying in this world as long as fucking possible. And to have a piece of art out there that, like, makes it okay, even for a minute, with this unavoidable, profound, and sad truth that it will fucking end, that you will end and everything you love stops eventually. That's what art's about, I guess, right? Like, to give you that moment in life, takes your breath away, makes you appreciate where the fuck you are in the story at that point in time. I'm sure tonight, because Chadwick Boseman passed away, a lot of people are taking stock about where they are in their story right now. So often we're so busy telling the story and living the story that we don't think about the profound miracle of everything it took to get you here in the first place. We think about the shit we don't have. We think about the problems we have. We think about how our lives have been affected by coronavirus and stuff. And, you tend to forget, like, I can't even put my fingers close together enough to show you how close you had to fucking come to break into an egg as a sperm and beat all the other fucking sperm and live this best of all possible fucking worlds, even when it's at its absolute worst. So finding a piece of art that makes you okay with the notion, even for a moment, that, like, yeah, one day it's going to end, that helps you accept that, and that's what we got, a lifetime to accept the fact that this lifetime comes to an end. That's wonderful art. Those are two movies that, like, you would not think off the top of your head, like, oh, meet Joe Black. But man, there's moments in that movie that say a lot about living and whatnot. And for sure, what was the second one I said?
Big Fish.
Big Fish. Yeah, those are two.
Yeah, I mean, it's incumbent on people who want to make art, and people will have all kinds of advice, like, if you want to be a writer, what do I do? Like, what books do I read? You got to live a life. Like, the most important thing is to be a part of the world that you're trying to put into your art. And
it's the only way people are going to recognize it.
It's how we see ourselves in the art. Is if you have lived a life in all of its fucked up and wonderful different variations, and then can then go and make art informed by that. And I remember hearing from Damon Lindelof talking about the beginnings of Lost, that it basically was him processing the death of his father, which had happened incredibly recently, to him sitting down and cranking his way through the pilot with J.J. Abrams. Like, they had a week and a half to write a pilot, and it was, well, I just lost my dad, and I've never dealt with it, and I'm also having, like, questions about religion, and I've never dealt with that. And so what is Lost about? It's about Jack Shephard, who's flying back from Australia with his father to bury him in the States, and, like, it's about the baggage of a life that you don't know how to come to terms with, and whether or not you think that's what Lost is about, whether or not that becomes present or vibrant for you when you're watching of it, that's what was going on with the dude who was talking about it. And the show is infused with that. And it's important that we live lives, because then other people can recognize themselves in the art, or even just the life that you lead. Nobody wants to sit down with a robot who's never done nothing.
It's take it from a guy who once worked at a convenience store a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and thought, I don't know. A lot of people come into stores. They might recognize this story. A lot of people have jobs. They might identify and stuff. It's your born-ass fucking life. That's the key. Like, you sit around going like, oh, I wish I was anything else. It's the normalcy. It's how familiar we are to one another. It's our similarities that make stories like that land as well as they do. You know, there are stories that are satisfying to watch because they're fun and shit, like Endgame and all the Marvel movies and fucking some of the DC movies. But then there are things that land, you know, right here and wind up holding a mirror up to us, where suddenly, you know, you're in the midst of something. I mean, it happened to me with fucking watching Flash, first season of The Flash. There's a video of me bawling and shit. Yes, it's because Flash is well done and the storyline was good, but that's everything I brought to that exact moment in time when I watch it from my own life. That's what's beautiful about this shit. We don't sit around and talk about it because it's like, ooh, it's just fun to watch. It means something to us. It's the way we speak to one another. It's how we relate to one another.
Yeah, it's like people will always say, can't you ever just turn your brain off and watch a movie? It's like, well, no, because I'm bringing myself to it. And some movies will harmonize and vibrate in a different way, but I can't be passive because that's not how this works.
Yeah.
Because we're active participants in our lives and we're active participants in the stories that we intake because we're bringing our own perspectives to it. And things that mean things to me and things mean things to him will be different sometimes or similar in other times, but it's because we're bringing ourselves to this work. And it's because somebody who made the work is bringing themselves and putting it on the screen.
It's true. It's like the makers and the audience invest more of themselves in this stuff than, you know, other mediums, because we're all searching for a truth. And, you know, even though movies lie at 24 fucking frames per second, there's truth hidden within them. And so moments that you see in movies that take your breath away or actually make you feel calm about the inevitable. Calm about, like, you know, like, oh my God, this will all stop one day. I will lose my parents. I will lose my wife, husband, like all of this. You know, he used a perfect word before. It's a salve. It's a bomb. I think he said bomb. There's a bomb in Gilead, ladies and gentlemen. Duck. No, a bomb, B-A-L-M. It's, to borrow a hackneyed expression from 20 years ago, chicken soup for the soul. And that's why we're all here. That's why we gathered together. Not to ask the Lord's blessing, but to talk about the things that we love and the things that mean something to us. And thank God over the course of the last 10, 20 years, it's more acceptable to love this shit this much. You don't have to hide it. You don't have to be like, well, I go to Star Trek conventions. You know, you could wear it on your fucking sleeve because the whole world's embracing the stuff that we've been embracing in this type of genre storytelling for years. You want to feel good about life? Watch a movie, even a bad one. Because that'll make you feel like I'm better than this, and it'll make you want to be a filmmaker and shit. And then your life gets real good. Because then you get to make movies and talk about movies. And then one day you get to a place where you're like, I don't really want to make them anymore. I just want to talk about it. That's where I am, kids. Great questions tonight, right?
Indeed, man.
We got some good chatter out of them, man. It's a sad night, ladies and gentlemen, but strength in numbers, and we got together and hopefully lifted each other up for a little while, man. How the kids doing in the chat, JC? Everyone happy?
Or as happy
yeah,
as
they're doing all right now.
No, now what was the matter?
Just a lot of troll bots, racists that I had to police.
Are you shitting me?
Yeah, it's all bot people with keywords, but I think we got it under control.
Sweet.
We had a lot of Shawshank Redemption. Also, get busy.
What a
living or
great
get
point.
busy
Yeah,
dying.
get busy living or get busy dying. Brooks. Yeah.
Hollywood Boulevard is jumping.
Yeah, did anybody tell you that we're in quarantine here in Los Angeles, Hollywood? We're not. Everyone out. I've been, I hike Runyon every morning. I'm not saying this to lift myself up over anybody else, but me and maybe a third of the people I see wear masks. Everyone else, no masks. I ain't judging. I'm just saying, like, if we all don't treat this seriously, we'll never get to see Tenet.
There's a line that has been running through my head for the last 6 months.
Oh, I know what it is. Put your fucking mask on!
It's from Hunt for Red October.
Some things in here don't react well to bullets.
Not quite. It's uttered by Fred Dalton Thompson, who would then eventually become a senator. But he says something like, "This situation will get out of control. It will get out of control, and we'll be lucky to live through it."
Jesus.
It's a little grim, but every fucking week I'm like, God, do you not? What? How do you? Really?
Remember, there's that great moment too when they're, the one guy's like, I don't care for the uniform. I don't like it, and he's just like, he broke his back and shit, and he goes, you might want
helicopter went down in the med.
Yeah.
He spent a year doing Annapolis from his hospital bed. I don't know if it's me, but I might cut him a little slack.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know, maybe it's me, Charlie, but I might cut the kid a little slack. Now I want to watch that movie. I was thinking of that movie because of Courtney B. Vance, who was in Lovecraft Country, but he's the one that's sitting there.
Paganini,
yes, Pagliacci, and talking about and doing he's the one that finds the Caterpillar Drive.
He does. Con Sonar, Crazy Ivan.
Oh fuck, I love that movie. God damn it! You had to say Crazy Ivan, and now I have to watch the movie because he says it too. He goes, they call it a crazy Ivan. He took crazy and turned it into 3 syllables. Crazy. I'll never forget that. What a great flick. Did you have a good time? Are you not entertained? Stolen from another movie, which I never feel like watching.
Never Gladiator?
No, I've seen it and I enjoyed it, but never once has it ever occurred to me to go back and rewatch that movie.
I used to do it
Ridley Scott's like, well, I never even saw Clerks, so fuck you.
Yes, quid pro quo.
Yeah.
But I used to watch it a lot when I first got a fucking home theater system, and either the first actual gladiator battle, or the big fucking charge when they're in Germany or whatever. But it's a workout for your speakers.
Is it really?
Yeah, and so that was like a demo thing. It was like that, the beginning of Terminator 2 with the fucking skulls and the robots.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yes. Or Private Ryan. Private Ryan was the gold standard. Because the opening sequence of that, and you got fucking bullets whizzing, and it's just
a great
nothing.
mix.
Yeah.
And it's a non-stop mix for the first half hour of that movie where it's just like, you'd hear
everything's happening. And then it goes into water, and suddenly you just hear that pew, 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 pew.
Another war that I learned more about from entertainment than I did in school.
Yeah, no. Entertainment seems to be...
I'm going to say it right here. Thank God for Hollywood. Because without it, I wouldn't know half the shit that I know. And half of it is probably wrong and incorrect and whatnot, but still.
I mean, our knowledge is specious at best.
Yes, to say the least.
The last 1,000 years of history.
But thanks to Steven Spielberg and Damon Lindelof, I know some shit now that I never knew before in my life. There it is, folks. Thank you for hanging out with us here at the Cantina. Strength in numbers, and we all got to lean on each other for a little bit, man. Sad day for those of us who love movies, and particularly the Marvel movies, and particularly Black Panther. Chadwick Boseman passed away at 43. Real bummer, man. Go hug somebody.
Indeed.
Go call somebody you haven't spoken to a little bit and whatnot. Make some connections. That's what we do when we lose people, man. It's a reminder. There's no silver lining comes out of fucking losing someone you love, except for a reminder of the fact that there are other people you love maybe you could be reaching out to as well. So let's all do that if we can. There is no show happening, ladies and gentlemen, without the man on the other side of this spit guard. And that's Mr. Marc Bernardin, Nicolas Cage himself. How long are you going to keep that on your Twitter?
I don't know, man, but it's so much fun.
It makes me laugh every time I see it. Nicolas Cage. 2 C's, no less.
2 C's.
Come back next week. Naturally, we'll be talking about other stuff and whatnot. If you're in the New Jersey area on Monday, I think we announced where the Movies Pop-Up is going to be. And I'll be coming out east for the opening of that.
You on a plane?
I'm not sure if I'm going to fly or drive. I'm of 2 minds about it. Number one, if I get on a plane, I can take a red eye, be in Jersey in 4 hours overnight.
Right.
But, then you're on a plane. But I also think that all them airlines are going to go out of their way to make sure you don't catch COVID on their flight.
Yes.
So that seems like it could be safe. Although, driving, you control your environment, and, that's just multiple days. Be about 4 days to get across country. But I could get into doing that with Jen, like driving 4 days, listening to music, bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, at some point, you are going to be trusting yourself to the safety of others, be it on a plane or in a hotel.
Truly. And at least where I'm going, fucking New Jersey, they got way less COVID there than we got here.
They seem to have...
As my kid was like, you can't go. And I was like, why? They've almost got it cured in Jersey. We're knee-deep into it up here, man. They got less COVID out there. They should be trying to stop me from coming there.
And they might.
They might, true. That's why I got to drive.
Yeah. Or like you get up to the fucking bridge going into, like, oh, sir.
Turn it around, Silent Bob.
Hey, California. Why don't you head on back there, pal?
Hey, Hollywood. Oh, you come back now during the quarantine? Fuck you, Hollywood. Get out of here. That's Jersey.
Yeah. You can stay in Erie for all I give a shit.
Silent Bob, all silent up till now. Now he's like, oh, I want to come to Jersey. Fuck you. Go back to being non-talky.
Virginia will take you. Lovers go to Virginia.
Thank you for hanging out with us here, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next week, man, when we come together to talk about all the stuff that makes us who we are, the stuff that we love. Until then, for Fat Man on Beyond, for Fat Man on the Beyond, that's the new title. Fat Man Beyond, I'm Kevin Smith.
I'm Marc Bernard.
Tune in next time. Same fat time, same fat channel, smodcast.com or
YouTube.com/Kevin Smith.
Wakanda forever.
Forever.